I sold my company to Apple. What it should say, hang on, is I sold my company to Apple and I sold my company to Google. So what we have is a very special treat. We have Tony Nethercutt, who has obviously sold his company AdMob to Google, interviewing Steven Rosenblatt, who formerly of Quattro, now of Foursquare, who sold his company to Apple. So with that, gentlemen, I don't know why you're at my conference versus in St. Bart's somewhere, but I'm very happy to have you guys. And everybody, shh. Remember the shh. They could buy this building if they wanted to. Really, they could.
No, we couldn't, or we would.
It's all yours, guys. Take it away.
Before we get started, I want to just call out David George from Celtra. I don't think he got a hell of an introduction, but Celtra is one of the sponsors today, big partner in Rich Media, so big thanks to David George for doing that. And also, before we get started, just so Steven and I know, a lot of people were here in the morning and people have left. Just curious what the audience is remaining. How many people are sellers of some sort of digital media? How many people are on the advertiser side? How many on the media buying side? So mostly sellers left. So we're talking to sellers. Steven Rosenblatt, first question for you is what was Quattro Wireless? You sold it to Apple. You personally, I know, went in, did that. What was it?
Quattro Wireless, I feel like this conference, we could have been here 5 years ago and talking about a lot of the same things.
I think we were
right?
5 years ago.
So Quattro Wireless was one of the first companies to really build a mobile ad platform and network, and ultimately created the scale, and Apple acquired it and rebranded it and launched iAd. But you know, I think a lot of what we're talking about, Tony, and what you guys are doing at Mojiva and JumpTap is, you know, we're still in this early phase where there's a lot of mobile specialists building the kind of the infrastructure and the technology that will ultimately allow the business to grow and scale. And for those of you in the audience who are in the early .com era, it's probably very reminiscent of what happened when you had DoubleClick building and then Atlas came along and so on and so forth. So, you know, I think what we did was we built technology. Mobile's complicated in a lot of ways, still is, and ultimately that became part of Apple.
Is that why they bought you? Because you were a mobile specialist? They needed somehow the DNA in their building?
You know, I think you'd have to ask Steve, but Steve's not around anymore. But I would say, you know, there's no question in today's day that mobile specialists are, I think we still, there's a lot that's required. There's a lot of focus. I think focus is the key word. So companies that are distracted by doing lots of different things, it's really hard to focus on doing mobile right. And I think early where we are today, we still need, we're still building the fundamentals and the building blocks. So I think the importance of understanding that DNA, and it's probably, you know, I'm sure, Google acquired AdMob for a lot of the same reasons, was getting the DNA and being able to focus on something and doing it really well. And I think that's still the kind of early stage and the early innings that we're at right now.
And I believe that's 100% true, and yet, for all the publishers in the room, they're probably debating, do I have a specialist? Do I roll it out to my whole team? Do I roll it out to my whole team, find out it doesn't work so good? Do I hire a couple of specialists to help the whole team? There's a lot of back and forth as we all try and figure out this together. Any special learnings that you have from Quattro and or iAd?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a complicated and tough decision, and a lot of it comes down to, does your business model support the extra headcount or the infrastructure to do it, especially when you're used to making a lot of money with not necessarily having as many people to support the mobile business. So I think it depends. I think you definitely need mobile DNA. I mean, at Foursquare, the thing that, you know, when I look back to when we started the company, or the company was started 3.5 years ago, we started as a mobile company. There was no desktop, there's no website. It was mobile first. And I think there's something to be said about that. So I know a lot of companies, and I said this many years ago, you can't shoehorn a desktop business into a mobile business. I think, you know, there's no question when you're going and talking to agencies and marketers, they understand things holistically. But you do need those specialists. You need people who are focused and really understand how to make sense of this world.
speaking of making sense of it, is there anything that you remember coming into Apple, bowing down, thinking, oh my God, these people have this shit together, I can't possibly add anything, but you brought something from Quattro that was just, they hadn't thought of, there was something that a small company really infused into the Apple culture?
Well, I mean, the one thing I'll say is for all you startups in the world, I don't think you have to be nervous about big companies necessarily eating your lunch, because I think big companies get distracted on doing lots of different things, and I think as a smaller, nimbler company, you can really focus and do something very specialized and doing it well. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think there were a lot of things we taught them, and kind of what we're doing right now at Foursquare, which is teaching a company about the ad business and how that works, and how to how the buying ecosystem works, and how marketers work. So I think a lot of people who aren't in the ad business think it's very logical, and that you can apply kind of engineering principles or other basic common sense to it, but as we all know, for those of you who've been in the business for a long time, it doesn't work that way. So you really need to understand how it works, how the ecosystem works, and I think in general, something we taught the Apple guys, they taught us a lot of stuff, but I think even now, as we're building a business at Foursquare, spending a lot of time thinking about that. Okay,
was there anything, you said Apple taught you a lot of things, besides the power, and if anything that Google taught me during my short time there was there's an amazing amount of power that comes with being with a company that people just worship and like hang on your every word. Besides the $1 million I/O strategy, was there anything that you felt that Apple and IAD really opened you up to as a person, as a seller?
Well, again, I'm not going to kind of I would say I'm not going to get too much into the past and the details, but I would say one thing that we had to do was you always had to be on your A game, and you always had to really think about how to do something great. And I think in the industry that we're in right now, that same principle applies, which is there's a lot of B-level stuff out there. There's a lot of, from creativity that I've heard to kind of the infrastructure and technology. And I think, once there's great product, great technology, great stuff that's out there, then you're going to see, I think, you're going to see the continued push into mobile from those people who are on the periphery right now. So, what gets people excited, what gets marketers excited, what gets agencies excited, what gets consumers are excited are reinventing things, right? Coming up with new experiences and not necessarily applying the old things or things that may have worked somewhere else to the exact thing that we're doing now. And I would just say that always reinventing and challenging yourself and challenging the companies that you're in to think about how are consumers engaging in what you're doing today, and not necessarily rehashing the things of the past.
And so now in your new role as CRO of Foursquare, you're having to essentially reinvent and build a business model where maybe there had been one, but you're having to really take that on. So what exactly does a CRO at Foursquare do?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the learnings that I've taken over the past in terms of how what a lot of mistakes we've made and I've made, and some of the things that really that have worked well, we're really building into in terms of how we're building the Foursquare business. So I spend a lot of time with the product team. That's I think a little bit different as a consumer-facing app. A little bit different than when I was on the Quattro side and working on an ad platform side. You're thinking more business to business. How do I service the business customers, and how do I scale that, and how do we kind of build tools for that ecosystem? We're thinking about it more from a consumer perspective. So I think what we're really spending a lot of time, what I'm spending a lot of time on, is working closely with the product team to figure out how do we build scalable ad products and solutions that work really well for our users who get excited by it, but also that marketers are going to understand that kind of fits in with something that we know they'll be interested in. So Foursquare's had for the last 3.5 years, and again, we've been thinking about monetization for a long time and creating products, but I think it kind of plays into the world we're in now, and a lot of folks are having challenges in this mobile space. Is we are thinking about building products that are way more integrated into the consumer experience. And I know a lot of you folks and a lot of publishers in the audience are debating, well, you know, how much banner inventory, how much, you know, kind of in-stream inventory or content should we kind of create? And I think those are, you know, everyone's different. For Foursquare, it's about building kind of native. When I was at Quattro and with Apple, there's a lot of, you know, a lot of scale in mobile web and in-app advertising right now that publishers need to serve and fill, and that companies, again, like Mojiva and JumpTap and others out there can certainly help fill. Okay.
So speaking of helping filling, dollar shift to mobile. Alexander Mars earlier said, you know, it was 1%. He had an updated slide. Maybe it's 2%. Maybe it's 6, 7% of digital. Still not terribly much. Ellen Conley said during her moment on stage that she felt that integration of offline with online with mobile would certainly help mobile. Any thoughts that you have on making that shift happen sooner?
Yeah, I mean, I think today's Ad Age cover was digital dimes to mobile pennies, or, you know, and how does it shift? It's not going to shift, I think, until, you know, if we look back in the online kind of the parallel in the online space, it really wasn't until Google came out with a model that got marketers and agencies comfortable that they could prove out the metrics, that really you saw kind of the online world start to take off. And first it was more direct response and search, and then it opened up more brand dollars as things evolved. And I think we're seeing that again in mobile. There's still this, you know, I think marketers and the agencies are a little bit nervous and a little bit hesitant to shift until they see the real results and the real ROI. And then from there, it's going to open up a whole ecosystem. So, you know, I think the onus is on us on the you know, on the publisher side, on the ad network side, to continue to prove. I think Ben said it best, which is don't speak in, you know, marketers don't speak in clicks and, you know, whatever conversions. They speak in the metrics that they're used to speaking in. And I think we have to help frame the conversation to a marketer and agency in the way that they really understand it. And so I think that's when you'll see, you know, it will shift. There's no doubt in the next couple of years, we're going to see a massive shift into, well, because you're already seeing consumer consumption time for websites. I mean, my belief is if you're not about, as a publisher, if you're not seeing about 50% of your overall web traffic coming from mobile devices, you really need to ask yourself, you know, are you doing the right thing? Because I think the most aggressive mobile-ish company, Facebook, Pandora, Weather, ESPN, those companies are seeing, I think they're close to that kind of 50-50 line, right? So I think as that happens,
revenue or impressions?
In terms of impressions, in terms of what you're seeing overall web traffic. So inevitably, you know, dollars are going to have to shift to mobile, but it's not going to happen fast enough until we can prove to marketers that they can be comfortable making the shift.
And what's going to take to prove to them? There was a question earlier about someone said, do creative, change it, test it, make sure you measure it because it's going to work. One of the panelists got, you know, very excited. There's all sorts of things out there that everyone's trying, whether it's rich media or data targeting, early behavioral targeting. Finally, we can track and track reasonably well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we have to, one thing, you know, we can't make the mistake of waiting for everything in mobile to look like the exact copy as it does online. So I don't think it does us justice to wait and sit around and wait for all the, you know, all the ad serving and targeting. Again, I know the various companies in the ecosystem that are out there really making it, you know, making it easier for dollars to kind of change hands. But I don't think we should be waiting, because I think you can, that's something that's dangerous. And I think a lot of companies, a lot of marketers out there are waiting, or their agencies are waiting for, you know, for them to do exactly what they do in an online world, and I think that's a mistake. But, you know, I think what we need to do, again, is bring it back to the basics. What are marketers like, right? What are they looking for? We spend a lot of time right now at Foursquare dealing with merchants. That's something, you know, we have 1 million merchants on the platform, and they're interested in how can, you know, Foursquare drive customers to their store, and we can prove that, right? So I think you have to figure out, if you're an ad network or if you're a publisher out there, you know, speak in the language that you've been speaking to those marketers, but really help them understand, you know, why they shouldn't wait, why waiting is going to hurt them long term, as other companies and competitors are jumping in and learning faster than them.
One of the things I like that Steve Hicks said was, he said, throw out the rules. And I think we still need to measure what we're doing and have objectives clear cut and what we, you know, think we want to achieve. But throwing out the rules is cool. advice to creatives. One of the things I liked that Steve also said, at least as far as you're concerned, he went from saying that there was 140 characters when he began thinking about this, and now he's talking about taking ads that have, you know, real world incorporated into them, and also taking the notion that the advertisers want to go snazzy first. How do you feel about the creative piece?
Well, again, you know, I think what I'd advise, and I was with an agency CEO a couple weeks ago, and we were in a meeting, and someone at the table said, you know, we got to do something big and first, and this and that, and he stepped in and he said, no, we have to make sure it works and we execute it and we can prove it out. And so I would say the same thing, which is, you know, we have to make sure that the things that we're doing, again, mobile, I like to equate it to building a building, right? A developer that's building apartments in the suburbs can't necessarily go into New York City and start and put up a skyscraper, right? Less real estate, a lot harder, different plumbing, different law, all sorts of things. So it's kind of the same thing in mobile, which is, you know, I think creativity, of course, has to evolve, and as the devices get better and better and the experiences get better, they have to, you know, the creativity will get better. But I think the biggest challenge for marketers and agencies to get their head around is in the web, when we're creating something, it works on any, you know, any PC or Mac that we're, you know, that we're on. In a mobile world, I think a lot of folks are making the mistake. They're not thinking about user experience. They're not thinking about how is someone who's on an, you know, an iOS device different than an Android device, different from, you know, any other device, and how do we give them the best experience, right? I mean, it's something at Foursquare we're forced to think about because we support, you know, 3 different platforms, and so we think about this, and again, as a mobile-first company, we have that luxury and we have the resources dedicated to that. I think the same thing applies in mobile. It's why you guys are 100% focused on how do we do things, you know, how do we make sure that the mobile ecosystem and creativity and ad serving and targeting works for this environment. It is different.
And that's one of the things I think we both learned when I was AdMob and you were Quattro, and I'm sure you learned it at iAd, is that the sales organizations, anybody selling in this space, has to be an educator, has to be a teacher, has to be willing to do lots of things that an agency would typically do. Do it with the agency. You're very involved in the creative process, and I don't see how you sell a lot of mobile and sell it well today without also having a creative brain and being able to preach that.
Yeah, I mean, completely agree. It's not, you know, you're not just, you have to do a lot of things besides kind of your day job, which, you know, which brings home your paycheck. But you really have to, you know, I've met with countless CMOs over the last several years, and they're all very interested. They know that mobile is changing their business. But again, I think, you know, they're also looking at mobile a little bit differently. They're looking at kind of the benefits that mobile brings to their business. So the localization of things is something that's on their mind and that they're thinking about. They know that if you're a packaged good company, they know that, you know, it's really hard for them to persuade a consumer when they're at the Targets and Walmarts, and so they know that you have these devices in your hands. So what does that mean? So again, I think instead of repeating a lot of the same things, think about how you can solve the problem that a marketer has or their agencies have using what we're really good at or what you're really good at. And that's really, I think, where you'll win. That's where I saw us win over the last several years. And it's something that I think will help kind of as the ecosystem grows.
And one of the things you've brought to marketers recently is the notion of a Google-like search product you're calling promoted updates. Any words you can share with us on how that's working and how that program's going?
Yeah, so how many of you guys checked in today, use Foursquare? Anyone?
Any mayors out there?
All right, we got. So if you guys have seen, you know, certainly the last 2 months, we've brought this notion of explore to the forefront. It's basically real-world search, and so what we've really been doing over the last 3 years with all this data, 2.5 billion check-ins, 5 million check-ins every day, is we're getting really smart at what people do, where they want to go, what they like, and we're starting to make sense of that and turn that into a real-world recommendation engine. And you know, I think what we're doing on, you know, again, practicing what we're preaching is the promoted updates that we launched at Lives and Explore is very similar. It's very search-like in that you know, we're finding consumers who are expressing intent to find places to either eat or shop or go somewhere, and we're incorporating that experience there. So we've seen some fascinating things. Actually, it's, you know, blown my mind in terms of some of the results so far, and the ability to prove out, real world traffic. But again, I think it goes back to that story of, that's what we do really well, so we're really focusing on that. I'm not going out to today automotive companies or packaged good companies or other companies that I don't think we have a great solution for at this time, and we're really focusing on our strengths. And I'd encourage, again, those are learnings from the past too. I don't know how you feel, Tony, about, you got to focus on what you're really good at and not chase things that you're marginally good at. So,
how are we doing on time?
We're out. Questions?
Okay. So before I go to questions, just one thing. I think one of the things that Steven is good at is whether he's at a small company or at a large company, he really takes advantage of what the offerings are, whether it's a Quattro or an iAd, and brings them to the market both credibly and uniquely. And so thank you for that.
I've learned from the best, Tony, only from you.
Thank you.
All right, we have time. Hold on. We have time for 2 quick questions, but they're going to be quick. Anyone?
We can go yes or no if you want to make them really quick.
All right. No questions. All right, gentlemen. Thank you very much.